I extend my gratitude to the FPHP Postgraduate Department team, headed by Associate Professor Dr. Mazlina Mahzar, for organizing this insightful webinar. I am confident that this session will equip us with invaluable knowledge to make our master's and PhD journey much smoother and more successful. I also would like to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Nur'hidayah Ahmat, and express our gratitude for taking the time to share her valuable insight with us today. Before we start, please take note of the following guidelines for the webinar. Number one, please make sure that you are on mute during the presentation. Number two, the Q&A session will be held after the presentation. You can raise your hand virtually or type your question in the chat box. Number three, please remain till the end of this webinar to receive the link of attendance. Before proceeding the next agenda, it will be greatly appreciated if you could kindly turn on your camera for the photo session. So please turn on your camera. Okay, everyone's ready? One night, ready?
Okay, ready?
Okay.
Smile. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you for your cooperation and participation. Before we begin, let me introduce today's esteemed speaker, Dr. Nur'hidayah binti Ahmat. She is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, University Technology Mara, Penang Branch, Pematang Pau campus. She holds a PhD in Hospitality Management from Iowa State University and is a certified hospitality educator with the American Hotel Lodging Association, with expertise in hospitality management, human resource management, and strategic management. Dr. Hidayah has contributed to various national and international research projects and publications, actively supporting UiTM Social, Creativity and Innovation Research Cluster. We are incredibly fortunate to have her with us today to share her insight and knowledge on instrumentation development. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Nur'hidayah Ahmat to the virtual stage.
Thank you, Moderator, Miss Irdina. Can I start?
Yes, Jen.
Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Okay, firstly, I would like to say thank you to the Postgraduate Office for inviting me to share a little bit of my knowledge and experience about instrumentation development. And I would like to also thank you to all attendees for participating in this webinar. You know, you wake up this early morning to join us, so I hope you can stay engaged and participate throughout the session. So can I ask permission to share my slide? Change my layout. Okay, if I share my slide like this, can you still see it or you want full screen? Because I cannot see the audience and also my chat box. Moderator?
Yes, like this okay, Doctor?
Okay. because I just can see my screen if I put it full screen, you know. Okay, never mind. Okay. So, welcome to Survey Design 101, Instrumentation Development. Okay, so in terms of my introduction, the moderator already talked about it. My name is Nur'hidayah, a certified hospitality educator and also a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, UiTM Cawangan Pulau Pinang. I've been working with UiTM Cawangan Pulau Pinang since December 2010. Okay, um, how about my voice? Is it okay, Irdina?
Okay, Doktor.
Okay, good. So you've been given this topic, instrumentation development. However, I plan to focus my presentation focusing on questionnaire. I believe a lot of our students are familiar with questionnaire, as most of our students prefer to choose quantitative, whereby they use numerical data, statistical analysis to test for relationship, to test their hypotheses, right? To generalize their findings for the total population. So that's why I try to focus my presentation for questionnaire development. Okay, so basically this is the outline of my presentation. I have some helpful tips that I would like to share with you. So we'll talk about that later. So before we talk into details about this particular topic, I would like you to participate in simple questions. Mentimeter, one moment, let me share the page. Okay. So can you please participate in this activity? So you either can using the vote code or you can scan the QR code for you to participate. So please answer this question. Are you planning to use questionnaire for your research? So maybe we have different semester here, I believe. So maybe some of you already have decision to use questionnaire. Maybe some of you are starting the program, or maybe some of you are not sure of what you're using in terms of the tool for data collection. So I'm going to give you another minute to respond. Okay, you can scan the QR code or use the vote code at menti.com, whichever convenience to you. And then, okay, moderator, are there more responses, do you think? Only 11? We have about 30 audience, I guess. Okay, never mind. We can just proceed. Okay, so based from this histogram, you can see majority of the participants saying yes, they are planning to use questionnaire for their research. So I hope this sharing session will benefit you in terms of developing or design a good questionnaire. Okay, thank you for your response. Okay, let me stop share. Okay. All right, let me continue. So based from the short response just now, majority of the audience today, they are planning to use questionnaire as a tool in collecting their data. Okay, so maybe we have different semester of audience today. So some of you may have attended your research method class, so you may have some idea about questionnaire or quantitative method. To those of you who are still new or just joining the program, maybe this webinar can can give you some ideas or tips for you to make decision in the future for your research project. So according to Creswell, survey research provides quantitative or numeric descriptions of attitudes or opinions of a population by studying a sample of that population. So that's what quantitative is about, whereby you collect numerical data, you do statistical data, and to do analysis later. Okay, to establish relationship of the variable that you already decide in your framework, right? When you define your proposal. So, for example, you use questionnaire for data collection, and then later, when you have the findings, you generalize the finding to a sample of a larger population. So, according to Kumar, a survey involves a collection of information from representative target respondent using a pre-designed questionnaire. So here what we are going to do today, where you learn on how to design a questionnaire. So if you decide to adopt or adapt a questionnaire, what we can do to ensure our questionnaire is effective or helpful for the respondent to participate in our study. Okay, so according to Hare, questionnaire is a prepared set of questions developed by the researcher, used by the respondent to record their answer or data. So questionnaire is also considered as a tool or instrument for data collection. I have another activity for you. Okay, I believe at some point in your life, or maybe as throughout your experience as a student at the faculty, you have been invited to participate in a survey or questionnaire in a study, right? So whether you receive that through email or through WhatsApp, social media, the other researchers sending you invitation for you to participate. So I want to know what actually motivates you to participate or answer a questionnaire. Let me share my Mentimeter. Okay, you can scan the QR code or use the vote code for you to put your answer. Okay, what motivates you to participate or answer a questionnaire? Okay, we as a potential respondent to other researchers. So what actually can attract you to participate or respond a questionnaire when you receive that in your email or in your social media platform? Okay, topic that interested me to respond. Yeah, the topic, which is the research title or the questionnaire title. So that if the title attract us, or if the title, we can see the connection, maybe the topic we are interested about, or maybe the topic is catchy. Okay, so we plan to proceed in answering the survey. So maybe other people want to respond to this question. What encouraged you to participate? Answer a question. Or if you want to switch on your mic, that's also okay. Sample criteria. Okay. Okay, other response? Okay, all right. So in terms of criteria, so maybe in the cover page of that particular questionnaire, the researcher already mentioned that you are invited to participate in this survey because, and you feel that you are belong to the characteristic, you are eligible to participate, and that draw you to respond to the questionnaire. Okay, I want to help fellow student, researcher company. So because you feel, interested to help people, your friends, researcher friends ask me to help, because of and curiosity about the question. Yes, as a researcher, I myself sometimes depends on the topic, the study. So I want to see what are the questions that the researcher use in their questionnaire. So the curiosity about the question, because the topic relate with me and attract me to answer the survey. If the topic are too general, I will not participate. Yes, because if the topic like recently, I received an email in UITM about renewable energy. So maybe I don't feel attracted to respond to the survey because I'm not interested with that particular topic. So it depends on your preference. So let me, if it's related to me. Yeah. So basically, we can summarize your answer here. What actually motivates you about the topic? Okay, you're curious about the questions, especially you as a researcher or you as a postgrad students are doing research. So you want to know how the researcher present their questionnaire, present their section. What are the important things that they include in their questionnaire, right? And criteria in terms of the characteristic, whether you are eligible to participate in that particular survey. So if you think you are eligible, then you proceed. Okay. Let me stop sharing. So from the responses, okay, we position ourselves as a potential respondent. So from there, we learn how can we actually motivate our potential respondent to develop, to answer our questionnaire. So from there, we can strategize what are the important factors that we need to consider when developing a good questionnaire. So I would like to briefly share with you some important points in developing a good questionnaire. We're going to talk about it in detail later. So first of all, you need to strategically plan your questionnaire. Yes, of course, that's obvious. So now you learn in this webinar the strategy. So I'm going to teach you some of the strategy. Maybe you already learned about this strategy in your research method class or from your supervisor. That's okay. So you can, we can learn from each other as well. So you need to know your research objective. So at this point, I believe you already defend, some of you already defend your research proposal. So you already defend your problem. What are the problem that you are trying to focus in your study, in your research? What are the research objectives that you're trying to achieve? What are the research questions that you like to answer? Okay, so then after that, you think about how you develop the survey question, whether you want to use closed-ended question or you want to use open-ended question or you want to mix both types of questions. So we're going to talk about this later in detail. So there are pros and cons of using closed-ended and also open-ended and also mixed. Okay, obviously, so when you talk about open-ended, you need to think about how you're going to analyze those responses later. So that might be difficult or challenges for the researcher to do the analysis. Okay, after that, you must provide clear instruction. So if you don't have instruction in each of your section or in your questionnaire, the participant, maybe just simply respond because they want to help you, but then they didn't really understand about the parts and parcels of the questionnaire. So the information must be clear. So today I would like to share with you some samples, okay, so you can have an idea how you're gonna design your questionnaire later. So you need to make sure that you keep question clear and concise. You need to avoid jargon. So if there is any jargon or acronyms, so you need to first define or mention that in your questionnaire, or else people, especially your potential respondent, will not understand and decide to stop participating in your research. Okay, so once you already have the idea, okay, the information, okay, now you develop instrument tailored to the target respondent. So at this point, you need to know who are the population that you like to study, and maybe you can take some sample or subset of the total population for your sampling. Depends on your sampling technique and strategy and whatnot. So once you already know the target respondent, you need to know their literacy level, their language proficiency. So if you're using original instrument from a Western country using English version, so you need to think about translating your questionnaire. So if you're doing cross-cultural research, or if your respondents are like Malaysian, Chinese, we have Indian, we have Malays, yeah. So you need to think about translating your questionnaire other than depending just using English language. Okay, because if participant didn't understand or don't understand the question, they might just simply respond because they want to help you, or they just refuse to participate. So there are several procedures. So today I would like to share with you about one of the procedures that I know, back translation procedures, for you to know to translate strategically without adjusting or changing the meaning of the question. Okay, so after you translate the questionnaire, so of course you need to go through the ethical approval process. So normally institution like UITM, for example, we have already REC process whereby we need to follow the ethical procedure. They have a revision, review, and then you have to do corrections. And after you get the approval, then you only can collect the data. So we will go into that detail later. So once the REC approve your questionnaire, you can start, test your instrument. You can do pilot tests before the actual data collection. Okay, once you settle that part, okay, do you already validate your instrument and whatnot? So you can decide on administering the actual questionnaire. So whether you are using online, face-to-face, QR code, survey platform. So we will discuss about those advantage and disadvantage of each of the technique or strategy later in this webinar. Okay, so this last point I would like to share with you about sending reminders. So based on my experience as a supervisor and also final year project coordinator, so I've seen many students, they just simply share their questionnaire or distribute their questionnaire link, but they forgot to do reminders. Because at some point when you distribute your questionnaire, after a few days, people already forgot about it. So you need to send reminders several times, and maybe you can, give a token or reward your participant, okay, to encourage them to participate. So I would like to share about this part later too. Okay, so that's basically the brief idea on how we can develop a good questionnaire. So I believe you already consider those points when developing your own questionnaire. Okay, so I have prepared some helpful tips for you to consider when you design your questionnaire. So maybe if you have attended your research method class, your lecturer might already explain about these tips to you, or maybe your supervisor already shared these helpful tips to you. That's okay too. Or maybe if you already have your questionnaire ready, so you can pull out your questionnaire and you can go through your questionnaire whether you have those you have considered all those tips when developing your own questionnaire. So far okay, moderator? Because I feel like I just so far okay?
So far okay.
Okay. Alright. Okay, ready with the tips? So tips number 1. So you need to answer several important questions. So I have a few questions here that I would like to share with you. So this question you need to carefully or thoroughly answer the question. Okay, first question is what exactly is that you wish to know? So you need to clarify your research problem. You need to know your research objective, research question. So this question, basically, you already do that when you develop your research proposal. You already defend in front of the panels. Okay, so if this part is already clear, then it is fine. So you already know the variables, the framework. Okay, so this part you need to first clear that part first. Okay, so then after that you need to know your target respondent. Who is your target respondent? So you need to know the population. What is the population that you like to study? So from that particular population, you take some samples or sampling frame. So sampling, you need to have sampling strategy as well, probability, non-probability, so which will be covered in other webinars, I believe. Okay, so when this part is clear, then you need to know what are the questions that you want to ask to your respondent. Okay, based on my experience as hospitality and tourism researchers, so if you are doing a common topic like service quality, job satisfaction, compensation, human resource, so there are many available instruments on the internet that you can adopt and adapt. Okay, so instead of developing the question by yourself from scratch, you can just use other people's question, provided you already ask permission from the original author. Yeah. Okay, so before you want to use other people's instrument, you actually need to email the original author to ask for permission. Okay, and then you credit them in your research. Okay, so once you already know the question that you like to ask them, so you need to check whether your question actually measured the correct variables. Okay, for example, for job satisfaction, what are the questions that you can ask in order to measure job satisfaction? So this part is very, very important to avoid you actually measure the wrong thing. Okay. All right. So next question, what would be the question type? So as I mentioned earlier, you can decide whether you want to use closed-ended or open-ended question. Okay. So closed-ended, maybe you try to lead participant, okay, to answer either strongly agree to strongly disagree. So they just can pick either or. Okay, if you want to use open-ended, you can get maybe rich data, but you might suffer later in terms of analysis all those responses. The format that you're going to use for the questions and also the sequence, the order of the questionnaire, whether you want to put the demographic at the beginning or you want to put demographic profiles at the end of the questionnaire. So those thing you need to have strategy as well, because if you put demographic at the front, so you might get the demographic data fulfilled by the respondent. But if you put at the end of the questionnaire, maybe you can ask the respondent to focus on the question related to the variable first. So there is no right or wrong answer. It depends on how you justify or based on your own strategy. Okay. Next, are there any existing survey instruments? So that's all I always advise my undergraduate students especially, and also my postgraduate students. So if there are any available questionnaire that you can use, you just take their instrument, maybe some part of the items also can, it depends on you, on your study. So if you adopt, you simply take other people question. If you adapt, maybe you change some part of the questions. So you need to closely review the content to make sure the questionnaire that you adapt or adopt from other researchers is suitable for your study. So that's why you need to modify a little bit. Okay. So if the questionnaire is so popular, the instrument is so popular and regularly used by other researchers, you can support with the reliability and validity of the survey score. Okay, to show to other people in your report, in the thesis report, that this instrument is reliable and popularly used by other researchers as well. Okay, who will use the finding? So based on my experience as a supervisor and also as a final year project coordinator, when I read the students' report, they cannot identify the stakeholder that will benefit from their study. I think this is very important that you can do this in your study contribution as well as significance of the study, where you highlight or first you need to identify the stakeholder who will benefit from your study finding. So if you say the Ministry of Education, then how Ministry of Education can benefit from your study finding. And then once you already list down the stakeholders, okay, you can arrange them according to their importance. Of course, you will start your your stakeholders with Ministry of Education. So maybe the last one is students, customers. So you can rearrange them according to their importance, and you need to critically explain how each of these stakeholders can benefit from your study findings. So this part you need to be clear about. Okay, next. Okay, once you're already clear about who will benefit from your study finding, the question format, so now you need to plan how you're going to distribute your questionnaire. Okay, we will talk about this advantage and disadvantage of each technique later. Okay, but it depends on your study, depends on your research question, depends on the method that you plan with your supervisor. So some studies is more efficient to use face-to-face. For example, if I study about students at UiT and Cawangan Pulau Pinang, okay, maybe I can just hire some research assistant to help me with distributing questionnaire face-to-face. But it will be costly, it will be effective or not, it depends. Okay, maybe it is effective to get responses, 100% response rate from the participant, because we can actually face or advise the participant. Okay, online. So online social media platform and survey platform is popularly used among our students. Okay, they like to use Facebook, they like to use X platform, Instagram, to distribute their survey link to encourage people to respond. The pros and cons we will discuss about it later, but at some point you can get instant response from the participant. But after a few days, people already forgot about your study, they forgot to respond. So you need to send reminders again. Okay. So when do you need the survey result? So you need to ask yourself about your timeline. So if you already allocate like 1 month or 2 months of data collection, so you must to make sure you need to track or monitor the response rate. So if the response rate is getting low, so you can start send reminders or expand your distribution technique. Okay, you need to have a proper timeline because in your report you need to let the panel know or the examiner know your duration of time data collection. Okay, last important question that you need to consider is the risk and benefits for the participant. Okay, you yourself, when you participate in a survey, you need to think about the benefit. Okay, for example, if the questionnaire, they mention about token or incentive or voucher, you feel attracted to participate because at the end of the participation, you will get some benefit to you. So any risk, you also need to mention that in your cover page. Okay, for example, I study on compensation, job satisfaction. I study about turnover intention, and then the researcher collect the data at the company, for example. Okay, so when you distribute the questionnaire and the employee answer those kind of questions, it might be risky for them. Okay, the supervisor or manager might read their responses and terminate them. Okay, if they answer negatively. So these are the things that you need to consider when you plan or strategize your questionnaire. Okay, you need to be transparent to the participant. What are the risks or the benefit that they can get if they participate in your study. So that's tip number 1. Okay, tips number 2. Okay, you need to know your target respondent. Okay, so I like to share this tip because as a reviewer for REC, okay, I often see the student, they didn't really know the characteristic, okay, who are eligible to participate in your study, who are ineligible to participate in your study. So you need to actually define the characteristic of your respondent. Okay, the respondent that you want to choose should be knowledgeable or familiar about the topic, or else they cannot give you the correct information or correct data. So this information actually you need to fill in your REC form as well. Okay, when you submit for ethics. Okay. Another thing is that you can include filtering or screening question at the beginning of your questionnaire to ensure the respondent didn't waste their time. So if you don't include screening or filtering question at the beginning, when the respondent answer the question, and they only know at the end of the survey that they are not eligible to participate, so it is such a waste of time. Okay, so I always recommend my students to include screening question at the beginning. So if they know they already ineligible or cannot participate, they can just ignore or decide to remove or click X at the survey questionnaire. Okay. So we just want to make sure that our respondent meet the predetermined criteria. So we, as a researcher, we identify the criteria and the characteristic. Okay. All right. So we want a respondent or participant with experience with the event. So for example, I did my study on COVID-19. Okay, so we want hotel employees who have experience with COVID-19 to participate in the study. So who can actually share their behaviors or feelings that we ask them to respond in our questionnaire. Okay, for example, if your target respondents are current hotel employees in Pulau Pinang, Malaysia, then only hotel employees who are currently working in Pulau Pinang, Malaysia are eligible to participate. So hotel employee who already resigned or not working currently, so they cannot participate in the research. Simple as that. Okay, so this is a sample from one of my project, ready to eat food, purchase intention. So we don't really want somebody who have experience with RTE food. Instead, we open up the opportunity for other people, so all customers can participate in this study because we want to study their intention. okay, for ready to eat food. So I include a simple instruction in my cover page. Okay, we tell them the objective of the study, and we tell them a little bit that their contribution will be valuable and much appreciated. Okay, so this is like a brief explanation in the cover page. So the survey will take around 10 to 15 minutes. So as a participant, we try to imagine like 10 minutes, really long, 15 minutes, really long. So maybe that will influence us whether we want to proceed or not the questionnaire. Okay, it is 100% anonymous. So we know, we try to convince the participant that we will not share their data to other people. So strictly anonymous. So they don't have to write their full name, their contact number, okay? So they don't have to share their personal data. Your participation is voluntary, so we don't push or force our respondent to participate. Yeah, so maybe you want to help your friends, but make sure you are actually eligible to participate or help your friends answering their question. Okay, you may stop your participation at any time. So this sentence actually give the respondent like flexibility. If they feel that the question, they feel uncomfortable or they feel not to respond, so they just can skip the question, okay, or they can stop participate at any time they want. Okay, in this cover page, we also include screening question. Okay, so because we want people who are 18 and above to participate in our study, we don't want any minority. We don't want to deal with any minorities. So that's one of the reason. And because of REC, we try to focus our respondent to 18 years and above with purchasing power. Okay, in our cover page, we also include definition or information about ready to eat food, because if maybe some customer they already know about ready to eat food, but to some people they might not know the idea. They might have some brief idea, but they didn't really know whether whatever they have in their mind is correct. So you include the definition, a simple definition or layman term that other people can understand, and we can also provide some examples so people can imagine, okay, so this portray ready to eat food, and we share also some pictures for them to know, okay, these are the ready to eat food, and then if they feel they are eligible to participate, then they can move to the next section. Okay, another sample that I would like to share with you, one of my study about COVID-19 during pandemic. So we try to sample only current hospitality employees. So when we talk about hospitality employees, we're not just focusing on hotel, so we can diverse our sample a little bit. Okay, so we want to sample current hospitality employees who is affected during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we don't want hospitality employees who are stay at home, who are not working, so they cannot participate. Okay, so if they say yes, then only they can move with the next question. So we try to group them according to their sector. Okay, so this is the sample that I want to share with you. One of the students submit for REC revision. Okay, I want your feedback. Okay, based from this sample, what are the information that you can see available in this short cover page, and what are the other important information that should be in the cover page? Maybe you want to put in your chat box. You can respond in the chat box, or you can switch on the mic, whichever convenient to you. Are you still there? Irdina, can you hear my voice? Are you still there? Can you answer? What are the information available on the cover page, and what do you think are the important information that should be there? Review requester profile. Okay, Akma, maybe you want to elaborate further. What do you mean by review requester profile?
Assalamualaikum, Doctor. Okay, for this one, I believe the information which are important is we are telling the respondent who are we, what are we doing, so that make them feel comfortable or feel confident that these are a legit one.
Okay, thank you, Akmal. Yes, correct. So normally, I will share my own sample later. So this is just a sample from a postgraduate student. Okay, for me, I will include my details at the bottom so that if the participant, they want to ask more questions or they want to clarify, they want to reconfirm about this study, they can always contact us. Okay, so from this sample, they just include a name and researcher. That's it. So if there are more questions, so participant cannot clarify that or contact you. Okay, good. From Akmal, what about other student? Why conduct this study? Yes, of course, Jiang Rong. Okay, you need to tell them at the beginning. Okay, what is your study is about, but you cannot put all the, you copy and paste from your proposal to the cover page. No, you can just put a brief idea about your study and then you focus on the objective. Okay, this study aims to explore the impact of blah blah blah. Okay, good. Yes. Others? What about others? Other student? Other students? Sure. Hotel industry in which area? Yes, correct. Okay. Are you focusing like throughout Malaysia or are you focusing on specific states? Because some study they just like, for example, their study just focusing in Penang. So maybe the samples should be coming from a Penang sample. So you can set the setting or you can include the setting in your cover page so that will be clear for other potential respondents. For example, if your study is focusing on Penang, but you share it in your Facebook platform, so other people living in other states interested to respond, but they are not eligible to participate in your study. Okay, thank you, DPJ. Okay, Irdina. Okay, types of hotels and rating, yes. Okay, you can include such information as well to set the setting. Irdina. Oh, Irdina. Moderator. Moderator. Irdina. Tak ada. Okay. Okay, so from this sample, okay, the students briefly explain that she or he is a student at the faculty, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they are currently conducting a study entitled, so you put the title of your study and then you tell them a little bit about your study. Okay, focus on what? Okay, your participation is highly valuable and it will contribute to the study findings and provide meaningful insights. So these are the benefits that the participant can expect when they participate in your study. Okay, so the next paragraph talking about the time frame. So that the participant already know that they need to estimate about 5 to 10 minutes to complete. Okay, what if you mention here 5 to 10 minutes, but actually it takes longer than that? So how you can actually identify the correct minutes? Anybody can respond? Maybe you have your own strategy. Anybody would like to share their thoughts? How you can actually determine the minutes or the duration of the questionnaire? This is the beauty of online class here. Puan Mastura,
Yes, Doktor.
moderator ada tak? Or, student can actually participate. They can switch on their mic to talk. Okay ke?
Okey.
Pemalu lah ya.
Betul tu. Student, kindly participate ya.
Yeah, so that's why I really prefer face-to-face class rather than online. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Siapa tu? Using Grammarly apps, they can detect how many minutes to read, just the estimate time. Okay, Hidayah, can you switch, another Hidayah, can you switch on your mic So maybe you like to clarify about your response, Hidayah?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can use Grammarly apps, but we cannot sure how many minutes they want to think and they want to answer the questionnaire. So we just estimate maybe the Grammarly detect the document maybe around 10 minutes. So we just estimate for the one question they can answer 1 minute. So we just double it. So it can be 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you,
Or
Hidayah. Okay, maybe that's the advantage of generation nowadays. You have all the apps on all the platform to help you, okay, with your research. Okay, I will share with you one of the strategy that I did during my study. Okay, actually we cannot simply put the numbers, like 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So we need to actually be more accurate in terms of how we actually determine the time frame. Because like what I said earlier, so if you mention like 5 to 10 minutes, but actually your questioning is really, really long, it takes longer than 10 minutes, that will demotivate the participant to participate in the future, or maybe they just can stop participating in your questionnaire. Okay. Okay, I will share the strategy later. Okay, where I did during pilot test. Okay, I think during pilot test, pre-test, you can actually identify the approximate number of times, a number of minutes, okay, for participant to complete their response. Okay, I will share the format or the form with you later. Okay, so in this sample, the students also mentioned your responses will remain strictly confidential and anonymous. So this will create confidence to the participant to participate. They know that the data will not be used for other purpose, just for education purpose or research purpose only. And then at this statement, the student mentioned here, by proceeding, you consent to share your insight with the researcher. So this is some sort of consent form. So if the participant agree, so they just can click next or submit or next question. Okay. Okay. So from the sample that I just showed to you just now, so we know that you need to provide clear instruction and information. So starting with the research title. So if your research title, you can, relate, or maybe the title is so catchy that you want to know more about the study. So that will attract a participant to participate. Okay, next you discuss about briefly talk about your study purpose or your research objective. What are you aim to achieve in this particular study? Okay, how the information will be used. Okay, that's included in the sample just now. So the information will be used for academic purpose only, to convince the participant that we will not use their data for our personal interests. Okay, when you know their cell phone number, you send it and you do MLM activity with that participant. So we don't want that to happen. Okay. So the confidentiality, the risk, and the benefit that I already explained just now. Is there any compensation? Is there any incentive? Is there any voucher? Okay, any gift if they participate in your study? So I will share about this later. So for me, I think this compensation, incentive, gift, rewards. So this part will attract participants to respond or participate in your study. Okay, if you don't have a budget, if you don't have any much budget, maybe you can consider do drawing. So instead of give to each and every participant, you can do drawing. Maybe the lucky winner will get the benefit, the compensation, the rewards. Okay. Can they skip any question or stop at any time? So this question, actually, I recall my experience as a reviewer. I see most of the students prefer to put asterisk in their Google form questionnaire. There are pros and cons. Maybe you can get complete response, but then you force participants to respond even though they don't feel like responding to that particular question. Okay, we call it forced choice scale. Okay, you force the participant. So maybe they just simply click here and there if they don't feel like participate or respond to certain question, but because of you put the asterisk, so they need to put their response in order to move to the next section. Okay, so if you allow people to skip any question, so that will be more convenient for the participant. Okay, if they don't feel comfortable answering that particular question, they can just skip to the next question. So especially sensitive issues like mental health, like salary, turnover intention. So maybe they feel intimidated or they don't feel comfortable to answer, they can just skip. Or if the questionnaire get too lengthy, and they can stop at any time. Okay, so who is the researcher? Akmal already mentioned about this in the chat box. So you need to include our contact information so they can check whether the questionnaire is legit or not. Or if they have more information that they want to know, they can contact the researcher. Okay, basically you need to write a clear instruction to the respondent for each of the section. So if you start with section A, you start with variable first. Okay, first variable, you need to maybe put the definition of that particular variable. You need to put a proper instruction. Number 1 indicates strongly disagree. 2 indicates disagree, something like that. So the respondent will have a clear idea before they actually respond to the question. Okay, tips number 4, use the right question types. So make sure your questions are clear and understandable. How we can ensure our questions are clear and understandable? Okay, so that's why when you design your own question, that will be more difficult. So it will be easier if you can just adopt and adapt a question from previous prominent researchers. Okay, and how you want to make sure the understandable part. So if you do cross-cultural research, you can do translation to make sure the participant like Malay, Indian, Chinese, they can also understand the question, okay, rather than using just only English version. Okay, your questionnaire should not be too wordy or lengthy until people confused. So that is the item or the question itself is too complex. People tend to just simply click whatever they feel like want to click. Maybe they just choose agree. When they are in doubt, they just click agree. So those will influence the quality of your data. So the question should be understood and interpreted the same way by all respondents. So that's why the identifying the characteristic is very important, so that you have respondents with similar characteristic, similar thinking, similar understanding about that particular topic, so they interpret the same way. Okay, and the question that you ask should be relevant. So all the questions should be relevant and useful for you when you do the analysis later. Keep the question in order in mind. Start with the general question that will be easy to answer, or arrange the section or order of question. So these are part of the strategy. So like I mentioned earlier, maybe you want to put demographic at the beginning, maybe you want to put demographic at the end. So I would like to ask the students here. So if you, or maybe you are currently doing your questionnaire, or maybe you already collected your data, so you put the demographic at the beginning or at the end. Can I get some response? I put at the beginning. Yeah, Akmal, why you put at the beginning? What is the logic or the rationale?
Okay, I'm able to cite anyone. For my point of view, when I put the demographic at the beginning stage, they are more for that giving them a good start. If we start with our testing of the variable, maybe it gives them time to think and so on. So my point of view is, when we put demographic at the beginning, they have a good start point to do the questionnaire.
Okay, good, Akmal. Thank you for the feedback. Yes, there is no right or wrong answer, so you don't have to worry about that. So yes, I agree at some point with Akmal, so that when you put the demographic question at the beginning, they have the starting point. Maybe they have they think that is a general question, it's easy to answer, rather than focusing straight away on the variables. Like, let's look at the beginning. Okay, Mirawati also say beginning. Why Mirawati?
some sort like you try to do some ice breaking. Yeah.
Ice breaking, yes, correct. Yes, yes, makes sense. Okay. Actually, they depends on your strategy. So there are also benefit if you put at the beginning of your questionnaire. There also benefit if you put at the end of the questionnaire. Okay. Let me share with you this. I agree both sides. Okay, they also benefit, but our main focus is we want the participant to respond to the variables. I mean the questionnaire related to the question related to the variable. So if we allow, if we put at the beginning, maybe the participant already complete the demographic question. That is like 10, 11 question, and they feel like survey fatigue, they feel tired and they feel like I don't want to continue. And maybe when they're starting with the variables or the question related to the variables, they feel like the questionnaire is too long. They try to stop at that point. Okay, so that is why I myself also have my own justification why I sometimes prefer to put demographic question at the end. Okay, so when I do the analysis, missing data and how in terms of how I handle missing data, it's easier in the demographic part rather than in the variable. So I try to get as much participant to respond to question related to my variable first. Okay, so after they already complete the variables, then I ask them to complete the question related to their demography. It depends on your strategy. There is no right or wrong answer. I believe after you gather all the data, you need to clean your data, right? And you need to do if there is any missing data, you need to do something with that. You need to do analysis to make sure that the percentage of missing didn't really affect the overall data that you have. Okay, so if you don't have any forced choice skill, okay, if you're using asterisk, so of course you push the participant to respond regardless whether they are interested or they feel the question relevant to them or not, because you force them to answer. Like myself, I prefer to have like another point, like not prefer not to answer. So that also can be helpful rather than we push our respondent to answer even though they don't feel like answering that particular question. Okay, thank you for the response. Okay, this we already talked about this just now. Okay, demographic question. So whatever your strategy is, I believe you have your own justification. Okay, Akmal, you put demographic at the beginning, we're not encouraged to put more than 10 questions. So if you ask me, try not to have a lot of demographic question if you put at the beginning. For me, I always put screening question. So I already make sure that the participant responding to my questionnaire is already eligible. So next, they answer the question related to the variables. Okay, so after that, they only answer the demographic question. But if you include demographic at the beginning, if your questions are like too long, there are so many questions that you like to ask about their demographic, maybe you include some irrelevant question. For example, your study is not important for you to get income level. So you ask income level, you ask about their other questions that are not relevant. So when the participant feel that, okay, this question is, I don't feel like answering, okay, is too many questions. So I just stop there and we don't even get the participant to answer question related to the variable, which is the most important part of our study. Yes, apa tu? See, okay, that's good. Okay, so it depends on your strategy. Okay, like myself, many of my study I put demographic at the end. Okay, so open-ended, offer a variety of responses and time-consuming to ask and analyze. Yes, so if we put open-ended, we tend to give flexibility for the participant to put anything. Okay, maybe you can control the word count, but still they can put anything, their input related to that particular question. So if our question is close-ended, so it is more direct, they can just choose whatever that we have in our column. So they just can tick. Okay, so it's more direct. Okay, for open-ended, yes, it is time-consuming, but you can get rich data from that open-ended structure. But you need to know how to analyze that later during your data analysis. So in terms of scale, so this also I often see students making mistakes. So they just simply put response skills that are not matching with the question. So we'll talk about that later as well. So when you decides on the skills, okay, mostly people will put 5 to 7 points. So according to Tejados 2019, they recommend using 7-point rating scales from strongly disagree to strongly agree with neutral in the middle, right? Unless you require participant respondent to directed on one side, rather disagree or agree. So we don't want them to be in the middle, neither disagree or agree or neutral, right? So then you use 6-point Likert scale. So when you do your skills, what is your strategy? I would like to ask you, can you give your answer in the chat box? So are you prefer to use the same response skills in all of the sections, or how? Can I get response from the students? Okay, are there any students that are currently collecting data or design their questionnaire? Moderator, can you help me? Organizer? Vera? Vera, are you here? So in terms of skills, so yeah, student, please participate. Yes, thank you. So why they are quiet? So I just want to know your opinion. When you decide on the response skills, will you be using the same response skills regardless of the sections? Or you use different skills for different sections? How you actually strategize about this? No strategy. Okay, never mind. Okay. So actually, for me, myself as a researcher, I prefer to use the original response skills. So what is the logic behind using the original skills? So in my opinion, okay, my own justification, I feel that if you're using the original skills, original response skills, it will be helpful for you when you do the data analysis and interpretation during the findings and discussion section. Okay, so you can compare apple to apple. So if you adjust the scale, so you want to be easier at your part as a researcher, you simply change and use the same response skills for all the sections that you have in the questionnaire. So the participant tend to, just simply click whatever they feel like clicking during that day. Okay, but they didn't really focus on the items. So if you choose using different response scale depending on the original scales, like for example, section A using strongly agree to strongly disagree. Section B, using other scale, strong likely or highly likely and highly unlikely. So you try to change the response scale so it will give some focus for the participant so that they can actually read the item before they respond to the question. Okay, so it depends on your strategy. My strategy, I prefer to use the original response skill, so it will be helpful during my discussion and interpretation of the finding. And when I want to compare with previous studies, so I can actually compare apple to apple. Okay. Okay, now moving on, tips number 5, which is the common problem. So when you design your questionnaire, I think you need to know, you need to understand the common issues that you actually can face if you simply adapt or adopt without carefully review the items. So we will go through one by one. So leading or framing bias question. You try to frame the mind of the participant to respond to a particular response. Okay, for example, here I give here, which of the following do you believe is most responsible for the increase in hotel employee turnover? So we try to direct the response to irresponsible management, poor working environment. So we try to lead our participant. So this is not okay. So try to not design questions that are leading or framing the mind of the participant to a certain way. Okay, problem number 2 is double barrel question. So you include 2 or more issues and make the interpretation difficult or impossible for the participant. Example here, Bayview's employees are knowledgeable, friendly, and attentive. To some participant, maybe the employees are knowledgeable but not friendly, so they cannot answer that accurately. So you need to separate them, okay, because each contains different meaning. So respondents do not know how to respond if they have a different opinions about the 3 descriptors as an example. Okay. Vague questions that are not clear. Okay, wording should be clear and concise. So avoid having complex sentences until the respondent confused. They don't know how to answer. They just simply put whatever answer that they want to do. Okay, so how was your stay at this hotel? So it's kind of vague and like subjective, right? So alternatively, you can put a scale. How satisfied were you with the overall service? So from not all at all satisfied to extremely satisfied. So participant can just pick, okay, the scale. Negatively worded question. So I believe in your research method class, so your instructor or your lecturer might advise you about do reverse coding during the analysis. But poorly worded question can sometimes confuse the respondents, and which then will affect your internal consistency and the reliability of the measure. So when you do the analysis, you will have difficulty. So you forgot to reverse the item, so that will be another problem. So avoid excessive use of negatively worded item. So example here, there is a poor communication between various levels in the organization. So versus there is communication between various levels in the organization. Strongly agree, strongly disagree. Okay. Using acronyms, non-specific or unfamiliar terms and jargon. So, so maybe you are early researcher or students are doing research, so you are not sure about this strategy. So you just simply put SurfQual. You simply put those acronyms that are not familiar to the respondents. So you cannot assume all people understand about your jargon, your acronym. So you need to put question in the language familiar to the respondent. That's why I said earlier, if you need to transcribe your questionnaire, then you have to do it, or else you can get, the quality of your data is questionable. Okay. So if using technical terms, you need to provide definition like the sample I showed to you earlier, RTE, ready to eat food. So some people might already have experience with ready to eat food, but they don't know that actually that is an example of ready to eat food. So you can give a definition, examples, or maybe some image, so they will have a clear idea before they respond to the next question. So we want to put the standardized mindset in the respondent's mind before they actually respond to our study. Okay, so referring to SurfQual. So some audience might not know what is SurfQual. If your friend is answering your questionnaire, they might know what is SurfQual because they have attended lecture, for example. But to other people, they don't know about SurfQual. So incomplete range of overlapping answer choices. So sometimes survey response option with answers that overlap or are not comprehensive. Okay, if you ask question, what is your age? So you put skills under 18 years, 18 to 25, then 25 to 49. Okay, so actually it should be 26 to 49, 50 to 65. So the answer choices should be clear or accurate or not overlap, or else it will get confused. Okay, or alternatively, you can ask the respondent to fill in their age. Okay, then later you will group them according to their age group. Okay, problem number 7, absolute answers or vague quantifiers. Okay, avoid using vague quantifiers. For example, your skills, response skills like always, rarely, sometimes. To some people, they might interpret that word differently. Always means something else. To participant B, always means something different. Okay, so it's subject to the interpretation of the participant. So you need to clearly define the vague quantifiers that might be helpful for them to respond. For example, rarely equals to once a month. So if they say that, okay, yes, I do this once a month, so they can click. Okay, I do this sometimes. Sometimes equivalent to a few times a month. Okay, they can click. Always means every day. So I do this every day. So then they only can respond to the question. Okay, problem number 8, responses that do not match the question. So I often see this problem in students' questionnaire. Okay, when I review their questionnaire. Okay, they want to be convenient to the researcher. They put the same response option or response skill for all the section, regardless it is suitable or not. So you cannot do that. You need to make sure you check the question and the response skill is matched. Okay. You need to use the same, you cannot use the same response option for all survey items, even they did not match the question. So you cannot do that. Okay, I'm afraid of being infected with COVID-19. Not satisfied at all. Very satisfied. So it doesn't match with the question. It should be yes or no, or strongly agrees or strongly disagree. Okay. Okay, problem number 8, no content review by experts. So once you design your questionnaire in a draft version, so you should give your questionnaire for experts to review. Okay, so especially if you design the question by yourself, you really need to have an expert to review your question. Okay, even though we don't design the question ourselves, we adopt and adapt from other researchers, we still need to go through this process. Okay, we can use expert, like if your question about hotel industry, so you can use academician with hotel background, or at the same time you can also sample, you can get your friends working in hotel industry to give feedback. Okay, so we need content expert to validate whether we are measuring the correct items, or we are measuring using the correct question. Okay, after that, so we should pre-test with a similar individual. So we can do pre-testing or pilot test with a small samples. We try to validate whether the instrument and its measurement is correct. So we take a sample similar with the target population, same characteristic. So at this stage, you actually can identify or you can determine the time or the duration to complete the survey. So I will share my pilot test form later with you, so you can get the idea of how to get the estimate time. So Hare et al. 2007 recommend 4 to 5 or to 30 participants. Okay, other researchers also recommend 30 participants. So usually during pre-test or pilot test, we often select 30 as a threshold for pilot study. Okay, it depends. Like myself, when I do this large study for my PhD, I actually sample like 100, 200, okay, for my pilot test, because we want to check the instrument validity. Okay, so after you pretest in a small sample, so if your questionnaire, you actually design your question by yourself, you really need to do another pilot study to examine the score reliability in relation to other variables. So when you get 100, 200 participants participate in your pilot study, you can actually check the relationship, you can be more confident about the instrument before you actually distribute in a larger scale. Okay. So pre-test and pilot test, you can actually get feedback to improve your survey before your actual data collection. So how you can actually get feedback at this stage? So I will share an example later. Okay, problem number 12, excessively long survey. So if your survey is too long, there are too many variables that you're trying to measure in your study, so people tend to feel tired to respond to your long survey. Or maybe there are some redundant items in some of the section that you can consider remove them. Before remove, you need to discuss, you need to justify. You cannot simply remove the item without proper justification. So if your questionnaire include unnecessary item, you can just consider remove them. Okay. And survey fatigue that I mentioned earlier. So respondents tend to circle or just tick because they feel like they want to help their friends, but actually they don't feel like answering the question. Okay, they stop when they feel tired. So that will affect the quality of your data. So a recommended length of an online survey is between 10 to 15 minutes. So that's why you see a lot of questionnaire, their cover page mentioned 10 to 15 minutes. But actually you can identify, you can estimate the time yourself. Okay, that's the problem. The 12 problems that I highlight, common problems that we already faced when we design a questionnaire. So try to avoid all those problems, okay, when you design your questionnaire. So tips number 6, ensure logical flow and grouping. Okay, as Ahmat and another student mentioned just now, so they start with icebreaking, easy question, more general, non-threatening question to build rapport with the participant and also the questionnaire. Okay. Also, we can strategically think about whether we want to group question with similar topic together. Like normally, I will arrange like based on section. Section A, demographic, or section A, variable A, section B, variable B. So I will arrange them or group them accordingly. So that will be easier when I do the analysis later. So in each of the section, you need to have a proper transition or instruction. So maybe certain section, the participant need to recall their experience. So you need to give proper instruction. Recall your recent experience, blah, blah, blah. So when the participant read that, okay, they understand that they need to recall their experience before they respond to the following question. Okay, first choice rating scale I mentioned just now. So most of the students that I know and I review, so they tend to put asterisk. Okay, they force respondent to respond regardless if the question is related to the participant or not, or they don't feel like responding, or the question is uncomfortable. Okay, the sensitive question is uncomfortable, so they feel they don't want to respond. So my advice to you, you can also add another bullet. Okay, prefer not to answer. Okay, or not relevant, not related, something like that. So you can have that option in your questionnaire rather than you force them to answer. Okay, translate your questionnaire. Okay, especially cross-cultural research or if your participants with diverse background. So it is necessary when the target respondents speak different language. For example, your samples are from Malaysia, so you cannot simply put English version only unless your target respondents are academically, eligible to participate. Okay. So we need to ensure comprehension. The participant understand the question. We want to maintain the reliability and the validity of the questionnaire. Okay, we want to increase response rate because if the participant don't understand the question, they will stop and refuse to answer. Okay, we want to avoid bias. They don't understand the question, but they feel like helping their friends or they feel like they want to participate because of the voucher. Okay, they just simply click without understand the question. Okay, we want to comply with ethical standards. So if you fill in ethics or research ethic forms, you know that you need to prepare English version and Bahasa Malaysia version, okay, to ensure that we are being fair to other respondents as well. And we want to support cross-cultural research. Most of the instruments we know available there are in English. So like my student also, I advise them to translate. So if the question you want to test in China, for example, so you translate the questionnaire in Chinese language. Okay, so the Chinese respondent, so if they don't understand the English version, they can participate the same questionnaire using in the Chinese version. Okay, so I would like to share with you briefly 1970 back translation procedure. So I did this and I learned this during my PhD study. For my PhD study about cross-culture where I collect data in Malaysia. So we want to make sure that the native speaker in Malaysia understand the question, which in English version. So this is the strategy. So first, so we as a primary researcher who is bilingual, we know English, we know Malay. So we translate the question from the original language, English, and then we change or translate it to target language, which is Malay. Okay, so then I ask my faculty members or my friends, my colleague to translate the Malay version that I share with them, that I developed in phase 1 to English version. So they translate without discussion with me. So they translate themselves, okay, from Malay to English version. Okay, no discussion is allowed between them. So at this point, no discussion at all. So they can translate at their own time. Okay, after that, so once they already translate the Malay version to the English version, so we sit down together, okay, and we compare the back translated version, English, Malay, English with the original instrument to check for differences and accuracy. Because some word we cannot simply translate it using Google, you know, because it will sound weird in Malay version. Okay, renungkan. Okay, imagine. Okay, so you might choose other words. All right. So that is that why this stage is important. So you discuss with other faculty members who are also bilingual. So what are the words that are more suitable in Malay and also English word? Okay, then we present the questionnaire to an English expert, English language expert, to ensure all the items are understandable. Okay, so once you already finish this step, okay, then you need to submit for ethical consideration. So for postgraduate student, even undergraduate, they need to go through this process as well. So it depends on the faculty, how is the process, you need to refer to them. Like for UiTM Changan Pulau Pinang, we have a special unit whereby the student need to fill in several forms. They need to attach their questionnaire in Malay and English version. So the review process will take place. So after the revision, then only they can get approval letter for the data collection. Okay, I would like to ask the student here. So why you need to go through this ethical process? What is it? Academic, okay. Academic expert, I didn't notice this question. Academic expert or industry expert, any tips to approach them? Okay, Akmal, regarding your question. So for me, in my opinion, you need to have both. Okay, you need to have some academic expert, okay, so that they can answer the question and give feedback, give their opinion, academic perspective, and the industry, they can see the relevance of the question in relation to the current practice in the study. Okay, so networking is very important at this stage. Okay, DPJ, what if respondent put an answer, for example, under gender, they put a category not under my female category. Where do I put them in my analysis? DPJ, can you explain further about your question? I don't really understand.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Assalamualaikum. Basically, now, as you know, the latest trend is to have more than two genders, them, they, dogs, cupboard, whatever. So if they decide to put this, for example, I say male, female, should I put another category and say others, or do I just ignore this trend?
Okay, thank you, DPJ. Okay, so if you ask me, actually, based on my experience that I was state, there was one panel, okay, from psychology department, I think, sociology, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, he said that sex, male and female. Okay, sex, male and female. But gender, there are more than men and women. Okay, I understand in Malaysia, men and women, that is the basic gender that we're gonna put in our questionnaire. Maybe you can put one column that prefer not to answer. Okay, So that's one of the option that you can think about, rather than they don't want to put man or woman, or they confused. Maybe they can choose for prefer not to answer. Is it okay, DPG?
Yeah, I guess so, because some of my respondents are not from Malaysia, for example,
Mhm.
for this, so they prefer to write all sorts of other genders.
Yeah, so rather than, if you decide not to following the trend, maybe you can just man, woman, and prefer not to answer. Okay?
So you're saying don't write others because it might lead to more
Yeah.
issues, right?
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, and you have explained about that. I mean,
Yeah, all right. Thank
people
you.
tend to put all those sort of genders, so you can also put men, women, and prefer not to answer. Okay, or
Okay, thank you.
others also can, but it will open up to other genders. So why you think ethics is important? Can I ask your opinion, students or participants today? So why ethics is very important? Why you need to go through this process?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Is it because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? If you're talking about race, religion, or sensitive issues, so
Mm,
you want to make sure that you follow these standards, right? So that you don't offend anybody, especially those respondents that you have chosen.
yes. Thank you, DPG. So DPG has good point. Okay. So yes. So the reason why we need to go through this ethics process, there will be institutional review board or ethics committee who will review your study. Okay. Especially on your methodology part. Okay. The question that you ask the participant. Okay. Like myself, I did my PhD on minimum wage. Okay, minimum wage, job satisfaction, turnover intention, work engagement. Okay, so if we don't know this ethics, so we will feel like, why we need to go through this ethic process? Why they want to question? We just simply can distribute our question. People can just answer it. So at the beginning, I plan to go to each hotel to distribute my questionnaire face to face, because I feel like when I distribute face to face, I can get 100% response rate from the hotel employees. But for IRB, their institutional review board, they think that my question will put some sort of risk to the hotel employees or the participant. Okay, if they answer about minimum wage and job satisfaction, turnover intention, work engagement, job satisfaction, compensation satisfaction. So to IRB, so those variables are sound sensitive. Okay, if the participant answer negatively, like turnover intention, I feel like quitting my job. Okay, so their supervisor or manager accidentally read their response, so that will might jeopardize their career. I mean, the employee's career. So those are the things that we need to think about when we design our strategy, when we strategize our data collection technique. Okay, so that's why at the beginning I decided to use face to face, but after the REC process, the RLB process, they advised me not to go to the hotel, each of the hotel, and individually meet the employees, because it will put risk to the employees. So that's why at last minute I changed my data collection to online version. Okay. So yeah, when we review question IRB submission, we will look at the sample, the methodology, what are your strategy, that one we want to know. So you need to be transparent when you fill in the RED form, okay, research ethic. Okay, and then your instrument, whether the question will affect the mental health of the respondent. So those are sensitive information. So even though we think that social research like us, social science, what we don't really take their blood, we don't really take their hair as the sample, but our questionnaire actually there are some sort of risk if we include all those sensitive data or sensitive question, sensitive information. We ask the participant to include their IC number, their passport number, their contact email, their full name. So those are data, personal data. So you need to get consent, people need to volunteer to participate. You cannot force them to participate. So that's the reason why ethical consideration is very, very important. So, and if I'm not mistaken, the postgraduate office also make it a compulsory for each student to go through RED process, and then you need to collect your data within the time frame stated in your approval letter. Okay. So review and test your instrument. So once you already get the approval from the REC, good. Okay, you can now test your questionnaire. You can invite your friends, your colleague with the eligible characteristic to participate or give feedback or identify if there is any issue with the survey question. And then you can test the questionnaire with a group of people with similar characteristics, maybe 30, maybe 50, maybe 100 target respondent, okay, before you can actually distribute to a larger sample, a larger population. Okay, so if your study is about internship program, you might want to ask previous students who have experience with the program to test the survey. You don't have to limit your sample to just current internship student. Okay. All right. So today I would like to share with you tips developing a pilot test form. So I often see students don't have any pilot test form. They just simply give the same questionnaire and ask you to respond, okay, even though that is their pilot test. For me, pilot test, you need to have additional questions where you ask the respondent if there is any issue, if there is any problem with your question. So from there, you can improve your questionnaire. Doctor, the expert review need to be done before or after applying ethics. Okay, siapa tu? Okay, who's Nina? Okay, if you ask me, the expert review, you need to do that before you submit for ethics. Because if you do that after you submit for ethics, you will adjust or change a lot in your questionnaire. So you need to settle that first. At least the draft is convinced enough, then you can submit to REC for a process, review process. Okay, so this is my PhD pilot study that I did. Okay, so the title of study, so I do pilot test, survey examining impact of national minimum wage policy on Malaysian hotel employees. So we put our name and our supervisor or major professor. So we give a brief introduction about our study. So we invite them. See how I actually separate them in the different paragraph. Okay, we are inviting you to participate and provide your opinion in this pilot test survey. This survey has been developed to obtain your perspective, blah, blah, blah. Result of this study will provide valuable information, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so your input is very valuable. Participation is voluntary. You may refuse to participate at any time. So those are the keywords that you need to have in your cover page. You may skip any question, so they don't feel like answer, so they just can skip to other questions. Your individual responses will not be shared with your manager, supervisor, or any other employees. So this sample actually is for my initial data collection technique. So I plan to distribute the questionnaire to the hotel face-to-face. I include this in bold, but still IRB don't allow me to go face-to-face, okay, because of the risk that they perceive. They can see all the risks, okay, that I might not be able to see during that time. Okay, the following measures will be taken to ensure confidentiality. Okay, so I mentioned that the question will be completely anonymous. No identifier will be used, so they don't have to put their cell phone number, their full name, their passport number. Okay, so there's no identifier. The data will be stored in password protected computer in locked room at all times. So we try to convince the participant. These are the strategy that we try to do to make sure the data is confidential. Okay, to take care of the confidentiality of the data. The questionnaire will be kept for 1 year. The data will only be kept for 5 years after the study completion. So that's all the promise that we give to our participant. So only the principal investigator or the researcher and the major professor or the supervisor will have access to the research record. So we don't even share the data with the other supervisor or the other committee members that we have in our team. Okay, so that's the promise that we include in the cover page. So the survey will only take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete because of this pilot test. So it's kind of long. They need to give additional response in addition to the question. Okay, so if you have any question regarding the study, so we give information about the IRB. So like in UITM, we have REC, RMU, RMC, okay, information, and also we can include our details at the bottom. Okay, so if they have more questions, they can always contact us. Okay, so this is the front page, the second page of my pilot study questioning. So we give them brief introduction, the purpose of this pilot test, the research background, and the procedure. We need to always tell the participant the procedures that we are trying to do. Okay, so that's the simple procedure that I show to you as an example. Okay, we just want to make sure that they understand the wording, the skills that are used in the questionnaire. Okay, list of probing questions. So if we can able to discuss with the participant, we can ask them verbally, face to face, or else we can put them in the question format, in the e-format, online format. Did you understand the question asked in the survey? So the respondent, the pilot test respondent can actually respond yes. If no, why no? Okay, so from this you can get feedback to improve your questionnaire before the actual data collection. Did they actually understand the question? Okay, what is your interpretation of this item? So we want to check whether the pilot test respondent actually understand or not the question. Okay, so I always include this pilot test form at the end of my questionnaire for pilot test. Okay, how long did it take for you to fill out the questionnaire? So from this answer, you can actually get approximate time to complete the questionnaire. Were the questions understandable? Yes, no. If no, then which question number and what is the clarification? Okay, we try to clarify why you say that you don't understand this question. Okay, what needs to be clarified? So we will do the adjustment later. Okay, were the skills or ranking understandable? Yes, no. Okay, if no, so please recommend what needs to be done to make the skills more understandable for other participants in the actual data collection. So all these steps normally I will do in the pilot test stage. Okay, in general, what recommendation do you have to improve the questionnaire? So some of the respondent might say, make it short, too many items. So you can sit down with your supervisor and go through all this feedback before you make changes in your actual questionnaire. Okay, so basically those are the pilot test form that I use for my study. Maybe you can benefit that too. Okay, tips number 10, reward the participant. I think nowadays people wants to be rewarded, right? So what's in it for me if I participate in your study? So even small monetary values incentive can increase the rate of consent and responses from participants. So that's according to Abdulazim Arrow 2022. So we can actually offer incentive to people in exchange for their participation in your study, whether you can give them stationery, pen, prepaid cards, gift cards. So nowadays people give QR code, maybe some vouchers you can transfer in Zeus coffee apps, in Starbucks, in My Day voucher, 5 ringgit voucher, Aeon, 10 ringgit voucher. So if you don't have any enough budget, you can consider do drawing. Okay, you didn't really push our participant to enter drawing. It is a voluntary. That's why a sample here down here, I put is optional. So if they feel like they're interested to join the drawing, yes, they can put all the information. If not, they can just stop. Okay. So like the example I have here, so if they interested to join the drawing, so you'll be considered for 20 ringgit gift voucher drawing. Please enter your name, contact number, and email address. So because once if the participant is lucky enough, so they get the gift voucher, so we need to personally contact them to forward or to mail the voucher. I myself have experience with this. In my research project, I allocate certain budget to reward the participants. So sometimes, depends on the budget, so sometimes I reward each and every participant with my din 5 ringgit voucher, cheaper. So for 50 ringgit gift voucher, like Aeon 50 ringgit, so I will do drawing. So only lucky participant, so I will contact them and post the voucher using mail, okay, postage. Okay. Okay, so far okay. Can I get response?
Okay, clear, Dr. Nur'hidayah.
Yeah,
Very
thank
informative. Continue.
you, Puan Zubaida. Okay. Next, last tips from me is common method bias. I think this is very important. That's why I would like to share with you these tips. So oftentimes, hospitality and tourism researchers, we use questionnaire. We use self-administered questionnaire whereby we ask the respondent to fill in their response themselves. There's no interference, right? When you distribute online survey, you ask the respondent to participate at their own convenient time without any proper intervention from the researcher. Okay, so normally common method bias will occur. This issue will occur in hospitality and tourism research or social science research that are using survey as our data collection. Questionnaire as data collection. So common method bias happens when both independent and dependent variables are measured using one survey and using the same response skills. Okay, so in order to avoid this issue during the analysis later, so if you are a student or you are a researcher, so I advise you to go through this article that I put down here, or Pot-Sarkov 2003, and also Koch et al. 2021. So this article is very good that you can cite or you can read further. So how we can actually manage a common method bias. Okay, so we already discussed some of the issues just now in the common problems and also the tips just now. Okay, so I just want to highlight this common method bias that you need to consider when you write your manuscript and when you write your report in your thesis. Okay, so Koch et al. Provide a comprehensive review about common method bias, and also they offer a strategy how you can actually control or prevent this issue using procedural control and also using statistical control. Okay, you can read the article to know more about the analysis. Okay, in terms of sources, what are the sources of common method bias? So there are two actually. So one from the respondent, which is our respondents, our samples, right? So respondent related sources. The other one is measurement related sources. So first of all, we talk about the respondents, the common rated effects. So these biases will happen. Like some people, they tend to just click agree to all the question without even carefully read the items before they respond. Okay, and some biases also consistency. They want to portray their positive image, so they try to just pick the positive response. Okay, some people they over reporting about their positive behavior until they underreport the negative aspect. Okay, social desirability, they tend to follow the pattern, so they read or misunderstand the question, so they just put agree, strongly agree, and then all 7, 7, 7, 7. So which then will affect the integrity of your data or the quality of your data. So the characteristic of the participant that we choose also influence the this issue, because if we select a wrong target, if we don't know the characteristic of our respondents, it will affect the quality of our data. Okay, so some people they have no experience, lack of experience. For example, you ask about coffee. So people who have experience, regularly drink coffee, they can participate and provide their experience and knowledge about the questions. To some people, they don't know, maybe they will affect the quality of your data. But to some people, maybe they have too much experience. They tend to over-reporting their positive behavior. So those will affect the common method bias in your analysis later. Okay, measurement-related sources is the instrument that you develop. So whether the item is very complex, the sentence is too complex to understand with the double barrel, vague response, so those will influence the result or the quality of your data. The scale format that you use, maybe the scale response is not suitable, not matched with the question. So that's also affect the measurement issue later when you do the analysis. Okay, item order in the survey also influence common method, the sources of common method bias, because if you order the item not strategic way, so it will influence how the participant responds to the survey. Okay, item labeling. So we already learned the tips. So you can arrange the section according to independent variable, dependent variable, moderating variable, but you didn't include the term independent variable. You put the name of the variables, or maybe you can start with the dependent variable first. Okay, to some researchers, they measure independent and dependent variable at the same place and at the same time. So that's also influence the sources of common method bias. So I recall reading articles where the researcher collect the data separately. For example, they have several variables, too many variables. So maybe some variables they test at this point in time, same sample, different time frame. Okay, so after they get the data, so at some point in time they collect for other variables, same sample but different time frame. So that's also one of the strategy of how you can tackle this issue. There are various strategies. You can learn it from not only from the Koch et al. Article, but also from other researchers that really carefully think about how they actually minimize this common method bias issue. There are analyses that you can conduct, okay, to prove that your instrument is okay, is good. There is no issue with your instrument. So you can learn from Koch et al. Article. They talk about how to control for common method bias. But I advise my student, even my postgrad student, I also advise them to include this topic in their research report. Okay, so once you already finalized the questionnaire, so you already pilot tested a questionnaire, so everything is good. So now you can administer your questionnaire to actual data collection. You identify the best practice for administering the type of survey question. Okay, here in this Google Meet, so do we have students that already collect their data? Is there any student already collect their data? Not done yet. Okay, never mind. Okay, never mind. Thank you. So it depends on your strategy and how you justify what is your best practice. There's no right or wrong answer. Like I mentioned earlier, during my PhD study, initially I planned to distribute the survey face-to-face because I think during that time that is the best practice to get 100% response. But after the review board said no, so I changed last minute to online questioning. But still, I can still collect my data, okay, without jeopardize other people's career, So you can distribute through mail survey, in person, over the phone, electronic, via email, or social media platform. So social media platforms are popularly being used by our students. So they can use Facebook, ads, Instagram, WhatsApp to distribute their survey. But there are pros and cons in each of the strategy that you decide. So mail survey, I myself experienced mail survey a few times, especially during my stay at Iowa State. When I studied at Iowa State, I live in Iowa. So I often receive mail survey where they do like census survey. They put like $3 USD dollars. So regardless if I answer or not the survey, I still get the monetary incentive. If I completed the survey, so I seal the envelope, so I post the survey. Okay, so they will receive the survey. So there are pros and cons as well. So we will discuss about this advantage and disadvantage. Whatever your strategy is, you need to have a proper timeline and follow-up method. You cannot simply distribute today and then you just ignore it until end of the month. So you cannot do that. So after you distribute today, for instance, you can do follow-up after 2-3 days. Okay, you can check or track the response rate. If the response rate is getting low, so you can start sending reminders. Thank you for those who have participated in the survey. Okay, to those who are interested, please respond, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you need to regularly do that and monitor your time frame. Okay, using reminders in web-based data collection increased the response rate by 16%. So this is according to Goritz and Krusen. So regardless of your strategy, I think you need to always do reminders or follow-up. Okay, multiple sampling frames are used to reduce coverage limitation of any one frame. So for instance, you combine a list of student emails and contact numbers. So in addition to using emails to contact students for participate in your study, you also contact them using their contact numbers. So you reach them using a different strategy. So multiple modes are often used to contact or survey respondent. Primary survey via social media platform, but also we send a paper questionnaire through the mail to provide alternative for people who do not have internet or social media to respond to the survey. So whatever your strategy, you need to think about, you need to justify, of course, you need to justify, you need to include citation, but we try to get as much respondent as we can, because it is a challenging situation. It is a challenging part to get people to respond to our questionnaire. So you need to strategically think about your strategy. If you think using email is not effective, then you can contact them using contact number. So you can always reach the participant. So for me, data collection phase is very critical. Okay, the use of electronic and mobile surveys continues to grow. So some people are comfortable with using QR code. So you bring the QR code, so you ask people to scan and answer the question. So after they complete the question, maybe you can reward them something. Okay, in addition to mixed mode design. Okay, in Malaysia also there is a census questionnaire whereby I receive at home questionnaire that I'm eligible to participate. So I must participate, go to this website, and I need to respond to census questionnaire from the government. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the advantage and disadvantage. So again, there is no right or wrong answer. It depends on your strategy, how you justify your strategy, and you have a concrete citation to support your strategy. Okay, so for personally administered questionnaire or face-to-face, of course, you can establish rapport and motivate respondent to complete. You can stand next to the respondent to monitor, to observe and to clarify if there is any doubts. If they have any question, you can always help them. Okay, if you do it face-to-face. It is less expensive if distributed to a group of respondents. For example, I conduct a study in my class. So I ask my student each student to complete the questionnaire. So the tendency of the all students to respond is high. Okay, so I might get 100% response rate from all the students. Okay, so it is a controlled environment in a group of respondents. So the anonymity of respondents is high. So we don't know who respond unless we get their personal information. Okay, the disadvantage is the organization may reluctant or may refuse to allow you to collect data at their organization, because if they allow their employees to participate, so it would take the company time for that research purpose. So they might not agree. So you need to contact the gatekeeper, which is the HR, the hotel. If you have friends inside the organization, that will be beneficial. Okay, mail questionnaire, I already explained a little bit just now. So the advantage, anonymity is high. Okay, wide geographic region can be reached if we post, okay, we mail, and we can reach the different states. Okay, token gift can be enclosed to encourage participation, like I mentioned earlier. In the United States, yes, I received like a few dollars enclosed in the envelope to encourage me to participate in the survey. So they can take more time to respond at their convenience. Yes, true. So in the census survey that I received, they put time frame. So we can mail the completed questionnaire by this time frame. So it can give us more time rather than you ask them to complete face to face. They need to complete that by that time. Okay, so it is low cost compared to self-administered. So if you distribute the questionnaire by yourself face to face, you need to hire research assistant, you need to pay for vouchers or gift token that you need to give like one by one. So those are the costs that will incur. Okay, the disadvantage, the response rate may be low, or maybe people who receive the mail refuse to complete the questionnaire. Instead, they enjoy the $3 that they can get in the envelope, you know. So if they have any question, they cannot clarify, there's nobody to contact. Follow-up procedure for non-response are necessary. So that's why we need to always do follow-ups. Okay, lastly, electronic or online questionnaire. I understand that is why most of our students prefer electronic or online questionnaire. That is easy to administer and it can reach wider coverage. Very inexpensive, almost free, right? Like Facebook, our social media account, it is free. Okay, fast delivery. You can get instant response. You can check or track the response rate. Respondent can answer at their convenience, yes, as long as they have the link, a survey link with them, or else they misplace all the link. Results are available for review and analysis immediately, yes. So if you use Google Form, that is a common platform that our student use. So once the participant fill in the Google Form, you can download the Excel file and then transfer it to SPSS and do the analysis immediately. So that's the advantage of electronic or online questionnaire. But the disadvantage is you might need computer literacy. So if your target respondents are senior citizens who have no experience with computer, so it will be difficult for you to get their data. So the respondents must have access to the facility, to the internet. So if they want to answer the question, they need to have use their mobile data or Wi-Fi, okay, in order to participate. Or you are losing participant, you lost the participant. Okay, they must be willing to complete the survey. So if face-to-face, you already know how many pages, right? So if online, you can do tracking at the bottom. So you can ask the respondent to see their progress when they complete the survey. Okay. So it's already 11:30. As a conclusion, so basically in my conclusion, I did include some recaps. So instrument development, especially in developing questionnaire, is a critical stage in research. Okay, once you already decided that you want to use questionnaire as a tool for your data collection, so you need to make sure that the questionnaire that you design have quality, the accuracy, and the credibility of the data collection, because that will influence that. You need to consider important aspect when developing questionnaire. First, as I mentioned at the beginning of my slides, you need to have clear objective, what you want to measure. If satisfaction, then the question must relate with satisfaction and measure actually the satisfaction, measure attitude. So that's why if you don't have the expertise to design your own question, you can just simply adopt and adapt instrument from prominent researchers, provided you ask permission from them and cite them in your research report. So, okay, next, item generation. So you can decide on the item, whether you want to use open-ended, closed-ended. So depends on your research. You just want to make sure that the questions are clear. If there is any jargon or acronym, you include definition, include proper instruction. You need to choose the right skills. Like I mentioned earlier, if you ask me, my strategy is to use the original skills, okay, because it will be helpful when you do the analysis, yeah, you interpret and you want to compare, contrast, that will be easier if you are using the original response skill rather than you change everything. You want to be convenient at your part, you change 1 to 5 for all the section, regardless it is suitable or not. Okay, content validity, as I mentioned earlier, you need to get feedback from the experts, so whether academic industry or both. So maybe 2 from academic, 2 from hotel industry to give their feedback about our questionnaire. So from their feedback, we can actually improve and then do our pilot. Okay, translation. So it is needed if your study involve participant with different language literacy background. So you need to have translation process. Okay, pilot test. Okay, small sample from your target population. Normally, people will have like 30 sample minimum. Okay, 100. The more, the better for you to actually make sure your instrument is good enough before you distribute to a larger population. Okay, reliability testing. You check for internal consistency. So this one you can refer to Chromebook Alpha that we often use to justify reliability. Okay, and if we use a questionnaire from instrument from other researcher, so we can include that information as well, like the instrument popularly used or regularly used when measuring work engagement. Okay, so the reliability scores are similar to consistent with previous result. Okay, then validity testing is about we must to make sure that the construct measuring the correct thing. Okay, the item whether it really represent the domain, the dimension, the variable that we are trying to measure. So does it correlate with other measures of the same construct? So these are all the analysis that you have conduct later when you have the actual data. Okay, we don't want highly correlated item. So those will be covered in your data analysis class. Okay, ethical consideration. So this part is very important, especially at your ITM. So you need to check, you need to submit ethical approval. So once you get the approval letter, then only you can collect your data. So if you do that before you get approval letter, that is so unethical and it might jeopardize your graduate on time process. Okay, you need to include informed consent, ensure confidentiality, allow the respondent the flexibility to opt out, to skip, or to stop at any time if they don't feel comfortable to proceed. Okay, avoid leading offensive or overly personal question unless it's ethically justified. So I think social researcher like us will not have any a lot of issue in this matter. Okay, so finally, so you need to make sure that the questionnaire are clear, visually organized. So even though you use a simple Google form, but it's easy to navigate, proper instruction, clear. If you want to give image as an example to help the respondent understand better, just put it. Remember the do's and don'ts when developing your survey questionnaire. We already talked about that in the common problems. Remember the 11 important tips to develop a good questionnaire. Okay, however, if you have enough budget, you might want to consider using incentive to reduce the rate of recruitment failure and subsequent study termination. Okay, so you can use drawings. If you don't have a lot of budget, you can use drawing. So you can choose the lucky winner to win the prize. So I think that's all for me. Sorry, 11:37. So these are all the references that I use in my slides. That's all. Thank you. I pass to the moderator. So do we have question? Boleh share email, Doctor? Sure.
Okay.
Does someone does someone need to validate our questionnaire before we distribute it? I know if the person validated to make this validate. Yes. Okay. Puan Noraini Rahim. Yes. Thank you for the question. Can I answer this question, Suryati, before?
Yes. Doctor, you can answer the question before ending the session.
So yes, Madam Noraini. So yes, we need to validate our questionnaire. So if we design our question, we construct our question ourselves, there will be another longer process to validate our instrument. But if we simply adapt and adopt our questionnaire, that will be easier. Okay, but then you still need to do pilot test, or before pilot test, you need to do validity checking. Okay, you need to also recruit expert. So if your question something about our industry, you need to have people from the industry to give their feedback whether the items or the question that we ask, they can relate or really applicable to the industry, current industry, and also we can get feedback from the academician as an expert. to give feedback about the questionnaire, about the design of the questionnaire, the item, right? So we can get both sides. But then in your report, I advise you to include the background of a brief background about the expert that we invite. Okay, so the examiner want to see who are the experts. So we can briefly mention that the academician have working experience 20 years as a researcher, something like that. So the panel or the examiner, the thesis will have some sort of idea. The experts are actually qualified to give comment. Yeah, Fatin.
I'm sorry, doctor. I'm want to ask about the validation test. Can if we acquire an expert to check out the validation of the questions, is it we need a proper a formal clarification from them,
What do you
like
mean clarification?
like a statement
Yeah.
that they validate our question, an official statement? Do we need to have that?
Normally, I receive emails from my colleague or from students ask me to check their questionnaire. Okay, so in that email, normally they will have some sort of forms whereby I input my feedback, okay, my information at the end that I already checked their question. So I think that is adequate enough. Okay, but I heard some supervisor they want a proper email saying that I already validate. I mean, as the expert already validate the instrument, blah blah blah. Okay, but then even though you already validate the instrument, but after you submit to IRB or Research Ethics Committee, okay, they have people who will review your instrument. So they might have different opinion than the expert that you already invite earlier. Okay, so you need to also consider their feedback as well as a reviewer for REC board. Okay, so yes, but you can use my feedback, my comments as a supporting document saying that the questionnaire already has been validated by who. Okay, Fatin?
Okay, understood. So that's mean that the validation process must be done before research ethics application.
Yes, if you ask me, yes, because if you simply plug question, you adapt, you plug from other instrument or previous instrument, and then you put in your questionnaire draft, and then you just simply submit to the REC. So REC reviewer will comment definitely, and then they will ask if the supervisor already go through the items, if you already check the item before you submit for REC. So they have a lot of comments, and after you receive their comment, you do the adjustment. Then only you ask the expert, and then the expert has different opinion. Okay, so that will be difficult. I think challenges if you have that kind of step. Rather, you design or develop your questionnaire and then you ask the expert to review. Okay, once the industry expert and also academician, so to review, so they give their feedback. I believe at that stage your questionnaire is good. Maybe not 100%, maybe 90% okay. So then you can submit for REC approval process. So maybe for reviewer, REC reviewer, they will not feel they will feel that not much thing to complain because the comment maybe the questionnaire is okay rather than you just compile and then submit to REC, then only you validate with the expert. That's my justification. Okay, Fatin.
Okay, doctor. Thank you so much.
Okay, Suryati, ask for you.
Okay, is there any questions from the floors? Okay.
So before, can I say something? So
COVID
before,
and certificate. Inshallah we will say we will share the slides in our platform, YouTube platform, and also in website, WhatsApp. I'm sorry.
So before we end this session, I would like to say thank you to the organizer, and also I would like to wish good luck to all students who are in different stage in your study. So maybe you are now thinking about using questionnaire. Yes, fine, but you need to make sure that you design a good questionnaire that is effective that will help you later in the data analysis stage. Okay, so I wish you good luck. Thank you. So this is my email address.
Alright, thank you Dr. Nur'hidayah for the insightful presentation on instruments developments, and I believe that we have gained valuable knowledge on how to effectively develop and refine research instruments and critical component of a strong research design. And I thank you for the tips that you shared to us about on how to develop a good questionnaires. So before we end our session, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to Dr. Nur'hidayah Ahmat for sharing your expertise with us today. Your insight have undoubtedly enriched our understanding and about the survey design and instrument development. And to all the participants, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar valuable and informative. Don't forget to click the link provided in the chat box for your attendance. With that, I officially close today's webinars and wish you have a wonderful weekend, and till next time, take care and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.